"Keep that chair off the stairs," snapped a voice from the crowd. Then the man who said it stepped forward, palms raised, and added softly, "Please, give her space so no one slips. We'll get you up safely." Before we start, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Late afternoon light spilled through the old brick of Brighton Station, turning dust motes gold as commuters funneled toward the exit. The elevator had a handwritten sign taped over its buttons, "Out of service." At the base of the long staircase, a woman in her mid-30s, Amelia Hart, 36, female, sat in a wheelchair with a neat blue cast peeking from her long skirt. One hand rested on the push rim, the other steadied a boy beside her. Ben Hart, 10, male, whose backpack was swallowing his shoulders. She was calm in that practiced way of people who know panic never helps, but her eyes kept flicking up the staircase that rose like a stubborn hill. Ben's voice lowered to a whisper. "Mom, we can wait for the elevator to be fixed." A cluster of commuters hesitated, forming that uncertain half-circle people make when they want to help, but aren't sure how. The station smelled faintly of coffee and iron. Shoes thudded and scuffed. Somewhere, a bus brake sighed. Then the man who'd spoken stepped clear of the crowd. Jack Miller, 39, male, work boots, delivery jacket, a day's scruff softening a steady jaw, knelt to Amelia's eye level so he wouldn't tower over her. "Name's Jack," he said, warm and even. "If it's all right with you, we can make a plan. I can carry the chair, and you can take the handrail. Your son and I will spot you the whole way. No rush. Your call." Amelia studied his face. There was no show in it, no hero's grin, just focus, like he'd lifted 1,000 small but important weights before this moment. "Thank you," she said. "I'm Amelia. This is Ben. My knee surgery was 2 weeks ago. Stairs are not my favorite." Jack nodded once as if she'd just shared coordinates. He turned to the bystanders. "Could I borrow 2 sets of hands? One person above to walk backward and keep the path clear, one behind me in case I need a pause." A college-aged woman in a denim jacket stepped up. A gray-haired man with a cane shifted his weight and volunteered too. "To you first," Jack said quietly to Amelia. "You set the pace. If anything hurts or feels wrong, we stop. Deal?" "Deal," she said, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath for longer than the elevator had been broken. Jack showed Ben how to stand just to her left so he could hold her elbow without pulling. "We always let your mom tell us if she wants more help or less," he told the boy. Ben nodded, brows lifted in determination. The wheelchair folded with a careful clack. Jack lifted it like it weighed less than it looked, but he didn't rush. "We'll take 3 steps at a time," he said. "We pause and breathe at each landing." They began. The staircase seemed to get steeper with every step, but their small system worked. Amelia's fingers slid along the rail, white-knuckled at first, then looser as the rhythm found them. Ben called out each third step in a steady count, his voice becoming the metronome they needed. The denim jacket student kept the path clear above, meeting eyes and murmuring "thanks" as people tucked in their bags. The older man angled himself down a step behind, spotting with quiet pride. "2 more to the landing," Jack said. "You're doing great." A commuter in a hurry bumped shoulders as he passed. Jack's voice was firm without being sharp. "Easy. We've got someone balancing." The man muttered an apology and slipped away. The crowd exhaled, like the staircase itself had been holding tension. At the first landing, Amelia's breath trembled. "I forgot," she said with a faint laugh, "how slow stairs are when the world is in a rush." "Rushing is overrated," Jack said. "You see more when you go slow." Ben grinned. "Like the gum stuck to step 7. Amelia's smile reached her eyes. "Not the souvenir I wanted." They climbed again. Jack's arms didn't shake. He carried the folded chair with the unremarkable grace of someone who's made heavy things feel lighter by adjusting his grip and his patience. At the next landing, an older woman offered a water bottle. Amelia took only one sip and nodded. "Thank you." By the time they reached the top, the station felt quieter than when they'd started. The last 3 stairs were the longest. Ben's counting got softer. Amelia's jaw set like she was negotiating with her knee, and it was finally listening. They stepped onto level ground, and a bubble of applause rose from a few onlookers who had lingered, not for drama, but for resolution. "Teamwork," Jack said, lowering the wheelchair to the floor with care. He set the brake. "May I lock it here for a second while you rest?" "Yes," Amelia said, blinking fast as emotion slipped through the practical surface. Relief can look like tears even when nothing is wrong. "I can take it from here." Jack crouched again. "I'll carry it to the curb for you at least," he said. "Ben, you okay?" The boy nodded. "I was brave." "You were," Jack said, "and you respected your mom's lead. That's the bravest part." They moved toward the station doors. Outside, the street hummed with end-of-day noise. The hiss of espresso machines from the cafe across the way. A bicycle bell. The distant bark of a happy dog. Cool air touched that spot behind the ears where stress sits. Jack adjusted the wheelchair handle so Amelia could roll herself. He walked beside them without hovering. "Do you do this often?" Amelia asked, a half-smile forming. "Appear at broken elevators like a guardian?" Jack chuckled. "I do. Delivery runs. The station's on my route. And I've carried a lot of awkward boxes up a lot of weird staircases." He scratched his neck, a little shy. "My daughter, Lily, she's 9, likes to say I'm an expert in moving heavy things that don't want to be moved. Morning school drop-off, grocery bags, life." "Lily sounds wise," Amelia said. "She's the wise one," Jack replied. "I'm just trying to keep up." They reached the curb. A rideshare car idled with its blinkers on. Amelia thanked the driver for waiting, then turned to Jack. Up close, her eyes were clearer now. Hazel, warm as fresh tea. "What do we owe you?" she asked, reaching for her bag. Jack shook his head right away. "Please, no. I didn't do it for money." "At least let me buy you a coffee," she said. "It'll soothe my guilt for making you a stair Sherpa." He hesitated, then nodded once, not wanting to trample the gift of her gratitude. "I won't say no to coffee." They crossed to the cafe. Ben pressed his face to the glass pastry case, performing the math of 1 cookie versus 2. Jack paid for a simple drip. Amelia ordered a chamomile tea. They found a table by the window where the light turned everyone into a softer version of themselves. "So, delivery runs," Amelia said, stirring her tea. "You like it?" "I like good routes and decent people," Jack said. "The pay doesn't always match the effort. I've been sending out applications for an operations job. I used to manage receiving at a warehouse, built schedules, smoothed bottlenecks." He gave a small shrug, diffusing your-turn awkwardness with a smile. "I'm between steady ladders." Ben perked up. "Mom does operations," he said, and Amelia gave him a gentle look, the one that says, "Let people tell their own truths." "Ben is generous with titles," she said lightly. "But I do enjoy fixing traffic jams. Of all kinds." She reached for a napkin and a pen from her bag. "Tell me your favorite way to move something fragile up a narrow staircase." Jack grinned. "With respect and patience." "And a plan," Amelia prompted. "And a plan," he agreed. He drew a tiny diagram on the napkin. Arrows for flow, stick figures for spotters, a dotted line for the safest path. Amelia watched his hand. There was a steadiness to his lines, a neatness that made even stick figures look competent. "May I keep this?" she asked. If you like maps of tiny people, Jack said, laughing. I like seeing how people think, she said, folding the napkin carefully and slipping it into her bag as if it were already important. It's helpful? The rideshare pinged a reminder on her phone. We should go, she told Ben. Then to Jack, thank you again. Not just for the stairs, but for the way you did it. The way? You asked first, she said. You let me lead. That matters. They wheeled back to the Hydra curb. The city had shifted into that blue-gold hour when the day forgives itself for running late. Jack helped steady the chair as Amelia transferred into the front seat with the care of someone who'd practiced the movement a dozen times. He folded the chair and slid it into the trunk. Good luck with those applications, Amelia said as the driver pulled his seatbelt across. Someone's going to be very lucky to have you. Jack lifted a hand in a brief wave. Take it one landing at a time, he said to Ben. The boy saluted with a grin. The car merged into traffic and was gone. Jack checked his phone. A new email notification blinked up from a sender he didn't recognize. Heartfelt Logistics. Interview invitation. His brows knit. He didn't remember applying there, though he'd fired off a dozen applications last week to lists of companies that ended in field and tech and logistics. The message was short and specific. Could you come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. to discuss an operations lead position? Bring any notes or examples of process thinking you're proud of. He thought of the napkin, the arrows, Amelia's careful fold. The next morning, after Lily's school drop-off and a toast he forgot to butter, Jack walked into a downtown lobby made of glass and confidence. The logo behind the desk read, Heartfelt Logistics in brushed steel. The receptionist, Paige, mid-20s, female, handed him a visitor badge and a polite smile. Third floor, Conference B, she said. They're excited to meet you. Excited? Jack breathed out and straightened the collar Lily had insisted on smoothing before he left. As the elevator opened onto the third floor, sunlight spilled across a wall of windows and a row of photographs showing delivery routes overlaid on city maps like bright threads. A door at the end of the hall swung inward. Ben stood there in a school uniform he hadn't been wearing yesterday, hand on the knob, eyes wide in delight. Mom, he called over his shoulder, not taking his eyes off Jack. It's the Stair Sherpa. Another voice answered, warm and sure. Invite him in, Ben. Jack stepped into Conference B, and there she was, no cast showing under the tailored slate dress, posture easy, but unmistakably in charge. Amelia Hart, 36, female, offered her hand. The nameplate on the table did the rest. Amelia Hart, Chief Executive Officer. Jack, she said, smile reaching her eyes again, let's talk about the way you led those stairs, and what that would look like with a few more of them. For a moment, the room just breathed. Morning light washed across the table, catching motes of dust that drifted like quiet applause. Jack's grip matched Amelia's. Steady, measured. The napkin from yesterday sat at the center of the table in a clear sleeve, as if it were a blueprint instead of cafe paper. Ben insisted we protect your masterpiece, Amelia said, amused. He told the office it was evidence of excellent thinking. Ben, posted near a tray of cookies like a ceremonial guard, gave a solemn nod, and then reached for a chocolate chip with the diplomacy of a future ambassador. Only one, he promised, chewing thoughtfully. Jack let a soft laugh escape, then glanced at the conference wall. Magnetic boards were covered with route maps, colored strings connecting hubs and drop points across the city. Tiny notes with careful handwriting, delay here, driver knows gate code. Ask cafe to shift pickup to 310, speckled the edges. The place looked like the inside of a well-run mind. Amelia gestured toward the maps. Heartfield grew out of a scrappy kitchen table plan and a sticky note army, she said. We've kept the soul of it, the respectful pace, the permission to think out loud, but our growth means we need new hands on the tiller. An operations lead who understands that sometimes the heavy thing isn't the freight, it's a customer's mood or a team's trust. She rested her palms on the back of a chair, not quite sitting, the posture of someone who prefers to meet people eye to eye. Yesterday you didn't lift first. You listened first. Then, you built a plan and checked consent at every landing. That's the job, Jack. He exhaled, a hint of nerves giving way to that practical calm he wore like a uniform. If you want me to draw tiny stick people with arrows, I'm your man, he said, then let the humor quiet. I care about work that treats people like people. Good, Amelia replied, because the way we move is our brand. A quick series of introductions followed. Operations analyst, Priya Collins, 28, female, slid in with a tablet. Line haul coordinator, Tom Green, 44, male, set a coffee on a coaster and offered a handshake that said he trusted what he could measure. Paige from reception reappeared with extra notepads, making the small room feel like an intentional gathering rather than an interview. They gave Jack a scenario. A neighborhood festival closing 3 streets on a Wednesday afternoon with minimal notice, a hospital supply request coming from across town, a driver called in sick, a freezer unit that needed a special power outlet at pickup. The pieces sounded doomed to collide. Jack's brow furrowed, not with panic but with the almost visible click of gears engaging. He stood, approached the magnetic board, and began to draw lines with a dry erase marker. Short notches for time windows, a dotted detour through an alley approved for loading, a phone icon beside a cafe he knew would shift pickup 15 minutes if someone asks nicely. He circled a note about the hospital request. This moves to first position, he said. Assign Monica from Route 12. Her timing's always 5 minutes fast. Priya, that freezer unit needs advanced coordination. Can you check if the outlet at Greenway Market matches the spec? If not, we swap to the Midtown vendor with the generator and throw in a thank you card for the trouble. He stepped back. And we tell the festival coordinator that we'll stay off their main drag, but we'll need their volunteers to keep a loading zone open on Willow Street for exactly 5 minutes at 3:40. Give them the satisfaction of being part of the solution. Tom leaned forward, eyes lighting. He just built a plan and a relationship at the same time. Amelia's smile was quiet, the kind of approval that lands without fanfare. How would you communicate that to the drivers? She asked. Simple, human, and timed, Jack said. No long paragraphs at the start of a shift. One message now with the big picture so folks understand the why, then individual check-ins an hour before each pinch point. And if a driver says it won't work how I think, we adjust. They own the road more than I do. Ben whispered to Paige, who whispered to Priya, who set a cookie on a napkin in front of Jack as if minutes of good thinking required fueling. Jack blinked, then chuckled. Operational excellence, powered by chocolate. Trade secret, Priya said. Amelia glanced at the napkin in its sleeve. You ready for the not-a-trick question? She asked. Why this kind of work? Jack considered. The room waited like an audience listens to a soft song. Because I like when things and people arrive where they're meant to be, he said. On time, intact, and feeling respected on the way. No one spoke for a heartbeat. Then Amelia pulled a folder from her bag. Inside sat a clean offer letter, printed on thick paper that didn't curl at the corners. This is an official offer for operations lead, she said. Fair salary, good health care. We work sane hours because families exist. We coach, we don't bark. And when the elevator breaks, we don't look for a scapegoat. We build a ramp. Jack's hands hovered over the folder without touching it. This fast? You've been interviewing since the bottom of the stairs, she said. The rest is paperwork. Ben, vibrating with second-hand victory, leaned toward the window. If he says yes, can we show him the wall with all the driver's pets? He asked, eyes huge. It's very important to morale. Amelia laughed. Deeply important, she confirmed. Then, to Jack, there's one condition. Jack lifted a brow. You keep leading like you did yesterday, with consent and patience, and you save at least one Friday morning a month to drink tea with me and diagnose our next Step 7. His smile was the unguarded kind that happens when the present surprises the past for the better. Yes, he said. He signed. Amelia signed. The room, small team, big moment, breathed out, the way a city exhales when the traffic light finally turns green. The first week felt like stepping onto a moving walkway already set to a gentle pace. Jack shadowed dispatch, watched drivers map shortcuts with the wisdom of cabbies, learned the unspoken language of the loading dock, 2 sharp whistles for heads up, a palm flat to say hold, a raised coffee meaning you're doing great. Every afternoon he left by 3:15 to collect Lily from school, then returned for an hour after dinner to review the next day's bottlenecks. No one clock-shamed him for leaving. Someone had already taped a paper sign near the exit. Family time is also operations. He ran into Amelia often without running into her. She had a way of orbiting the floor that didn't feel like surveillance. It felt like presence. Sometimes Ben joined for half an hour after homework, quizzing drivers about their favorite snacks on the road. Apples, hands down, declared Monica from Route 12, their nature's patience. On Thursday, a storm of delivery requests landed within an hour of each other. Not rain, just life weather. A bakery oven died, moving pickup later. A bookstore launched a signing. A nursing home added a last-minute medical supply need. Jack's plan on the board began to look like a spider web. He took a breath, lowered his marker, and said to the room, "Okay, we're going to take this one landing at a time." Someone, Tom, maybe, grinned. There it is. They made calls. They swapped assignments. They asked the bookstore to hold a signing table closer to the rear entrance. "Sure, happy to," the manager said. "We'll even put a smiley face on the box for your driver." They got the nursing home request out first, and Jack sent a quiet note to that driver. "Thanks for being our first step." The driver responded with a thumbs up and a selfie of a grateful nurse waving beside a box of supplies. The photo went on the pet wall. Toward evening, as the last van rolled in, Amelia appeared at Jack's side with 2 mugs. Coffee for him, tea for her. They watched the dock settle into its end-of-day lean. Lily darted from behind a pallet with a paper crown on her head. Ben followed, carefully carrying a cupcake with a candle that wasn't lit. "No fire in the building," he announced, proud of following the rules. "But we can still sing." "What are we celebrating?" Jack asked, kneeling to match their height. "First week," Lily said, adjusting the crown until it tilted at a perfect angle of silly. "Also, Dad's new badge doesn't fall off anymore." Amelia's eyes warmed. That seems worthy of song. They hummed a tiny verse, not quite happy birthday, not quite a hymn, just a happy little rise and fall melody the kids made up on the spot. It sounded like 2 families finding the same key. A month later, the station elevator broke again. The sign was neater this time, the tape straight. Jack, walking home with Lily and a bag of oranges, noticed a small ramp at the far end of the hall. Temporary, bright yellow, loaned by the transit authority. A volunteer in a vest stood beside it, cheerful and ready. "Looks like someone learned from last time," Jack murmured, then saw the placard zip-tied to the rail. "Thanks to Heartfelt Logistics for helping us plan Plan B." "Dad," Lily said, tugging his sleeve, You built a stair plan so good they made a ramp." He considered the truth of that and smiled. "We did," he said, giving her ponytail a gentle boop. "We all did." At the top of the stairs, the ramp landing, Amelia and Ben waited, as if the day had choreographed itself. Amelia wore sneakers with her work dress, a combination that announced priorities without a speech. Ben held 2 cups with lids and straws. "Citrus for the road and iced tea," Ben said, passing the drinks with ceremony. "And a question." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Mom says good companies teach people how to help right," Ben said. "Could we make a little card for folks about stair spotting? With drawings? Maybe tiny stick people?" Jack feigned deep consideration. "Let me think," he said. "Yes." The card happened. A bright, simple "How to Help on the Stairs" illustration appeared by community corkboards a week later. Ask first, align at the handrail, count together, take breaks, celebrate at the landing. The final line said, "Respect moves everything along." No logo, just the lesson. On a quiet Friday, Amelia joined Jack at the big window that overlooked the city's soft, late-morning shuffle. Tea steam curled around her fingers. His coffee cooled on the sill. "Do you ever think about how odd it is," she said, "that the hardest things in a day are often small? A step, a conversation, a change in the route." Jack considered the crosswalk below, where a man paused to let a woman with a stroller go first, then waved without making it grand. "Small things are where the big things live," he said. Amelia set her mug down. "I never thanked you properly for the day at the station," she said. Tone not heavy but honest. "Not for the carrying, for the way you let me lead my own body." "You didn't owe me thanks," Jack said. "Maybe not," she replied, "but gratitude's a habit here." They stood a moment longer, watching a city do its best. Somewhere behind them, the pet wall gained a new photo, Monica's cat asleep in a delivery crate, and Ben's laughter traveled like sunlight down a hallway. Jack's phone buzzed. A text from Lily's teacher, "Career day next month. Would you share about operations? Lily says you move invisible things," which sounds very cool. He held the screen out to Amelia. "Invisible things," she repeated, smiling. "That might be the most accurate job description I've heard." He tucked the phone away. "There's one more invisible thing," he said. "What you did for me, it changed the rhythm at home. I didn't realize how often I told my kid, 'Hurry up.' I've been saying, 'We'll take it one landing at a time.' Morning is nicer." Amelia's eyes brightened in that way kindness makes them. Then the stairs were worth it. That afternoon, a delivery driver returning from the Far West route paused at the operations desk. "Boss," she said to Jack, chin tipping toward the pet wall, "we should clear a little space for something new. Maybe pictures of the ramps we helped build, not just the ones with wheels." Jack glanced across the floor, to Priya's focused face, to Tom mapping next week, to Paige labeling folders with neat, careful letters. He looked at Amelia, who looked back, and the unspoken agreement clicked between them. "Let's make that wall," he said, "and let's fill it slowly." They did. And somewhere in a slim folder that rarely left Amelia's bag, a cafe napkin stayed tucked like a lighthouse sketch. 3 steps, a landing, and arrows pointing toward a brighter floor. Proof that sometimes the shortest distance between strangers is a staircase climbed with care.